Hi everyone. So we will now turn to the challenge 2 that we will present with Raja. So while the challenge focus more on mitigation and challenge on adaptations, challenge 3 aims at articulating both dimensions. So here we will talk both of mitigation and adaptations, and also while ambitioning to integrate the biodiversity dimensions also in this challenge. So we will present you some news of our young researchers, also some example of output for the last years, and some outlook for the next years. So here is the list of the permanent researchers involved in the challenge. So it's not the list is not completely exhaustive, but so it shows you that so 3 main teams are involved in the challenge. So CIRAD, LSC, and CIRAD. But we have also researchers from other institutions such as INRAE, Nancy, and so on and so forth, and also researchers from other challenge are maybe involved in the challenge too. So some news about our young researchers. So first, this year, thesis was completed by Lucie Perrin. So the supervisors are Patrice Dumas from CIRAD and Mathieu Vigne from CIRAD. And so the title of the thesis is a bit long, but is on the livestock and the economic and environmental impact of livestock. And so she published already 2 papers, and so one paper. So I present one paper last year at the General Assembly of last year's on the cattle farming. So next, Seymour is starting its 2nd year of PhD. So Seymour is currently doing a PhD on the topic localizing biomass production for energy at global scale under climate and biodiversity constraints, under the supervision of Benoit Gabriel and myself. And she had some interesting preliminary results on the land price at global scale. So she gets a first estimate of land price at global scale. So we are thinking about the topic of the paper now. And so we have different interesting possibilities for the papers. One possibility would be to compare the opportunity cost of land that we computed with the land price with other opportunity costs that may be linked to non-economic value, such as the carbon opportunity cost or the biodiversity opportunity cost. So we could, with this methodology, compare the different view of its different vision of opportunity cost of so next we have the thesis of Wadia Tahiri. So this thesis will start soon. So Wadia has been just hired by in CIRAD. So Wadia will start his thesis under the supervision of David, Rémi Prudhomme and Patrice Dumas at CIRAD. And so yes, so this should start as soon as the administrative procedure will be done. And we have also the postdoc of Yongsu. So Yongsu work on the double probing and is supervised by Nicolas Violi and David also. And David already presented the result from Yongsu, so I won't enter much into detail. And so, yeah, I'll let you.
Thank you, Thierry. So next, further news from young researchers. So at the PSI site, so we have 4 PhD students. Léa Crépin starting her last year, and last year she was visiting for 4 months the GRC to work on imported deforestation. So her PhD is on trade and deforestation. Maxence Gérard, who is here, is starting his third year, and he's working on regulation of externalities for meat production, land use, and dietary habits under the supervision of Stéphane de Gara and Guy Meunier. He had already a publication from master thesis with Pierre-Alain Jaillet, and a paper which is submitted right now. Bertie Daron, who is starting her second year PhD, is working under the supervision of Bachak Behramoglu and Laurent Lamy on land sector in international climate negotiations, and she will present her first paper at the summer school, which is not during the summer, it's next October, at Florence. And finally, Edouard Pigned, who is working on climate change, agriculture and development in Africa under the supervision of Philippe Delacode, Julien Wolfsberger, and myself. He will present in more details his work this afternoon. 2 postdocs were hired within PSAE to work with us on CIRAD. Mélanie Gittard, who is working with me and Julien on irrigation, land use, and agricultural productivity in South Africa, and Charles, who is working with François Vareille and myself on rainwater, shock, and growth. And both of them will give you more details on their work this afternoon. So, concerning the output of last year, we have a very successful year. We have more than 15 publications during 2022-2023. Most of them are on adaptation and mitigation. So you have plenty of work on these aspects, and some work also on deforestation and in the Brazilian Amazon. But also we have work which is connecting mitigation and adaptation, and which deals with international climate and aid and the connection with trade. So we selected from all these publications 2 examples of output that we will present you in detail. The first first example of output is dealing with adaptation of agriculture to climate change, with 2 papers that we published with François Vareille this year. And the second example of output are 3 papers that were published last year and this year from the Stimul project that Philippe told you about this morning. So for the first example of output, so in this paper that we have published in the American Journal of Agricultural Economics, we developed a structural model in which we try to understand whether farmers adapt to climate change. As David showed you this morning, for example, when you regress crop yield on the weather variables, when you observe the variation, you assume that there is adaptation, but we don't know whether the adaptation is from the plant reaction or the behavioral reaction of a farmer, which will adjust his behavior. So what we did in this paper is we propose a structural model which will allow to disentangle these 2 aspects, the economic effect and adaptation effect. And what we show is that in this model, that this kind of model, which is a very detailed model, that we were able to estimate because we observe data on yield, on area, and input used per crop. We have 3 crops, wheat, rapeseed, and barley, observed in a small department. This is the most department, but we have a very nice result. So the first result is that the agronomic models, which are used for models, give exactly the same result our structural models. However, our model will allow us to decompose this adaptation, and we show that the adaptation effects from the farmer are sizable, and they are very important to reduce the yield damages. So our results show that adaptation of farmers, mainly due to their variation of demand of fertilizer and pesticides, allow to compensate between 25% and 65% of the negative agronomic impacts of climate change on crop yield. This means that if we take into account adaptation, we show that the farmer has some flexibility to deal with the negative climate change impacts. The second paper is more on what I maybe forgot to say is this was the short-term adaptation, because we are assuming the adaptation during the growing season. What happened when the farmer has already choose the land allocation? So what happened during the growing season? In the other paper, we are dealing with the same question, but not the same time aspect, because here we are dealing with long-term adaptation. And in the economic literature, there is a very large literature dealing with this question, and they propose what we call Ricardian models, which are usually estimation of land price, which are regressed on the climate variables. And usually these models are cross-section models, but it has been shown in the literature that these models suffer from what we call omission variables bias. So what we proposed in this paper that we published in the Journal of Environmental and Economics and Management this year, we proposed a methodological approach, innovation or contribution, using a very nice and detailed data on all plots that were sold twice in France between 1996 and 2019. This will allow us to calculate the difference between prices and to explain this difference by the difference between climates. This is the most precise way to take into account this omitted variable bias, because we could control all variables that are dependent on the plot level. So this is what we call repeated Ricardian model. So we estimate this reduced form model, and we show that our approach gives a very robust results, to all specifications, and we add the explanatory variables compared to the classical Ricardian model. And we have also very interesting and different results from the researcher. We are showing that warmer summers will benefit French agriculture. So usually in the literature, it has been shown that warmer summers and warmer winters have negative impacts on the production. And we show quite different results. We try to understand how we could explain these results, and we show in our paper that this could be explained by crop switching toward high-value crops, such as vineyards, for example. So when we simulate climate change impact, we show that benefits from climate change in our model are from 2 to 20 times greater than what we have in previous literature. In this graph, you can see that these are the results of our model. This is the short-term model, and this is the classical Ricardian model. So we have positive benefits, even if the estimation is not very precise. And we also correct a result which was not very coherent from the literature. Usually the literature found that the short-term results are greater than the long-term ones, and we show here that we have the opposite. Now Thierry will present the second example of.
Thank you. So another key output of section 3 for this year is the publications of a series of papers on the effect of halving mineral end use in the European agriculture. In fact, that's some results that we already presented in previous general assemblies. But so now we have the whole pictures. In fact, concerning this project, as so every paper has been now published. So the objective was to assess the associated impact in terms of food security, climate mitigation, and biodiversity conservations from this policy of having mineral and use in European agriculture. So we have here this integrating conditions that we have in the challenge 3. That's a good example of that. So the key results. So in the first paper, has been was led by Anna Lunarska and published in the Applied Economic Policy Perspective. And this paper is more on the economic side of the question, of the issue, and it compares the results from two techno-economic models, so the Arropage model on the one side and the mixed use model on the other side. Based on this comparison, we get two contrasting ways of reducing end use. Arropage simulates massive land abandonment with quite strong reductions in agricultural productions, while mixed use and so the energy model simulates an extensification of crop productions with a lower crop productions compared to Arropage. So in Arropage, we have approximately 20 and 30% reductions in agricultural productions compared to the baseline, while in the NAU, the reduction in agricultural production is about 12%. So the paper also points to a risk of increasing the end use outside Europe if no measures on the demand side in Europe is taken. The second paper is on the carbon and biodiversity impact, as published in Nature Scientific Report by Dave Bazou. So the results focus on the carbon and biodiversity. I will rush a little bit because I run out of time. And the last paper is on the synergy and trade-offs. And the main conclusion is that we have a complex set of trade-offs between the carbon, biodiversity, and food security dimensions that ultimately depend on the type of economic response. So we have two types of economic response, land abandonment and extensification of crop productions. But overall, we have a benefit of halving end use in agriculture. Taking into account the different dimensions of the different benefits of reducing end use. And so our outlook for the next year is to finish a paper, synthesis papers, which is a synthesis from the workshop that we did last year, so workshop of reducing chemical inputs in agriculture that we did last year. So the starting point of this paper is that so many policies and initiatives have been taken in different parts of the world to reduce chemical inputs, but with quite limited results. So we try to understand why we have such limited results, and so what are the barriers and solutions to make this policy more effective. So we don't get to any definitive answers, but our analysis points to a systemic approach that you can see here on the figures, where we try to map the world solutions of chemical inputs from the chemical industry to consumers, and for each stage of these solutions, we have some dedicated policy instruments. And the last point is we have an online workshop on climate policy, bioenergy and land use. So next November, that will be an online workshop with more details to come. And the very last point is that we are recruiting motivated postdoc to join CIRAD on our postdoc land use and environment at the global scale. Motivated candidates are welcome. Thank you very much.